episode of the Finish Line with me, Richmond, and BallGame. We will discuss, is the NFL looking to cap quarterback play? Oh, it's a good discussion, especially with Tua's money on the way. Also, on top of that, the NFL could raid the Miami Dolphins coaching staff this season based upon all of our expectations. Also, Terron Armstead says Tua Tagovailoa will be one of the highest quarterbacks paid ever. So players got the expectations just like the fans. Smash the like button, subscribe if you are new, and as always, let's get into this.
Touchdown! Got it! You have got to be kidding me. Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score! Field down the near side, man open, touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. He's got it for a touchdown again! Touchdown! Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
All right, huddle up, huddle up. We're gonna crank these engines up on one. All right? Wait, 80. Wait, 80, set. Drivers, start your engines.
This is the Finish Line.
I coached a great offensive lineman in the past. Larry Little, Dwight Stevenson, Jim Langer, all Hall of Famers, and Richmond Webb belongs to that same group.
Here are your hosts, legendary Miami Dolphins left tackle Richmond Webb, Reason, and Mr. BallGame.
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. We are back here for another one on this Wednesday night, and we welcome y'all into the Finish Line as Richmond gets ready for some Texas A&M baseball, and Panther fans get ready for Game 6 tomorrow night back in Edmonton, because guess what? McJesus has arrived, okay, in that series. Oh boy, Connor McDavid. Did you watch any of that game yesterday, boys? Did you see any of that game, the Panthers game?
I didn't see that one.
You need to go watch the one highlight Connor had on his assist to Corey Perry. He walked through 4 Panthers players, went to the net, and then fed it out in front to a wide open Corey Perry. Just all he had to do was tap it in. It was disgusting. It was absolutely disgusting. So, man, and those NBA finals, I know Jennifer Forbush is out there somewhere, but was celebrating her Boston Celtics victory, but talking about disappointing. Holy jeez. Hopefully your Texas A&M Aggies have a better World Series run than, the Dallas Mavericks did in the finals. Jesus Lord. Gentlemen, we continue through the dog days of summer before training camp. How are you feeling, Richmond? I know you're just waiting to hear the beautiful ting of the ball cracking off aluminum bats. But how you feeling? How you feeling?
I'm actually feeling pretty good, and yeah, you're right. The Celtics was just, I think they were just across the board evenly when you have 5-6 players scoring double figures, and Dallas got Kyrie and Luka, and when 2 guys got to score at least 60 points, and they just dismantled them. But I hate they made it. They just got some work to do. But I'm feeling good. Like you said, if A&M wins one more game, they make it to the College World Series versus University of Tennessee. So we'll have a shot at it. But
The Vols? The Vols? The Vols?
The Volunteers, yes, sir. So,
Yep.
And so it's been pretty good. Even the teams that got knocked out, just watching the games, is just how evenly they are. Just, who makes the mistakes, or if a pitcher is not only, it makes a big difference. But other than that, I'm good. Glad to be back on the show with you guys. And I see BallGame with 23 on. So today is Patrick Surtain's birthday. So
it's Patrick Surtain, the first day, huh?
Yeah.
So how you doing, Mr. BallGame?
It's a good week, man. Just ready for things to start picking up a little bit, man. This dry season is crazy. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a real big baseball guy, but that's really all they got, and don't know too much about hockey, but I know the Panthers are in it, and I hear Reason talking about it. So, I guess it's something to watch. Need to learn a little more sports other than basketball and football. But, I got hit in the head with a baseball when I was little, and I just kind of steer clear of that altogether. So,
so that's what happened.
Yeah, man. That explains something. You know what I'm saying? It explains the ticks, at least. You know what I'm saying? Like, quick temper would go off on folk, but it's good. It's good to be here as always. So let's get it.
Yeah, always a good time chopping with you guys. I got to show you guys this goal just before we go here. You guys are going to see it. I'm going to mute it. Well, I won't mute it because I guess that helps the whole situation. You guys got to see this. You have to see this, what I'm talking about. This will help you appreciate hockey a little bit. All right. You know what I mean? So check this one out. I'll play it here so you guys can see exactly what I'm talking about, because I actually replied to someone about it today. It was absolutely disgusting. So obviously 97, Connor McDavid. Watch him with the puck. All right, let me turn this down a little bit because I'm sure it's gonna be loud.
Oh, wow.
Like, absolutely disgusting. Again, look at this. 1, 2. Look at that. Oh, unreal, man.
Hey, Reason, what do they call that machine they drive out on the
Zamboni?
Oh yeah, I like that.
Do know that.
To clean the ice.
I wouldn't mind driving that around. That guy seemed like he pretty smooth with it. When I used to go to the Panthers games, and then they had a this was years ago, but they used to have a semi-pro. I guess semi-pro was the Houston Aeros, and went to a couple of games. So it was pretty cool. But yeah.
Oh wow, that's back in the day, the Houston Aeros, man. Oh
yeah,
wow.
And the thing that I admire about the hockey, as big as they are, as smooth as they are on that ice, the way they move around, I was like, it's a different game. But yeah, I don't understand all of it, but I kind of start figuring out a few things. Like if you're fighting, long as nobody falls down, you get to just keep slugging it out.
Exactly. Exactly. It's amazing. And the game's changed a lot. I mean, in the early 2000s and stuff, if you kept your head down and you came across center ice, you got lit up. Now, if that happens, that person who lights you up is going to get suspended. So it's changed. It's much more player protection right now. And the other thing that I've always said is, their salaries for the abuse their bodies take, because they play 82 games and then the playoffs, okay. and then 7-game series in the playoffs, right? 8 teams on each side, so you can you know how many rounds that takes, right? So anyways, they don't get paid $20 million a year. That the highest paid player is around $14 million a year.
Oh, I didn't know it was that. Okay.
Yeah. And the salary cap is only in the mid 80s of only like $84-85 million. It's not even it's not even, because they don't have the revenue.
Yeah.
They just don't have the revenue, right? And they do revenue sharing. So, they help support teams that are hurting, right? So
that helps, yeah. Like
the Winnipeg Jets moved to Phoenix, and became the Coyotes, right? Arizona Coyotes.
Okay.
Now the Coyotes are leaving. They're going to Utah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's hard, man. You know,
I'm surprised they left like Winnipeg, because I know most even
they
like
ended up putting a franchise back there.
Yeah, that's what I was like. It's hockey up there. Yeah, like
you know what the
Michigan
problem
and all
is?
that.
The problem is the arena only can fit like 15, 16,000 people in Winnipeg. They don't have that kind of money in Winnipeg, right? Like, you know what? Like, there's only really, I think, 2 provinces in Canada that could support 2 teams, and it's Ontario, where we have the Ottawa Senators and the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then Vancouver has enough money out there where you could probably support 2 teams. But when you start getting like Saskatchewan, Manitoba, you know, even Quebec, they don't have that kind of money. You know what I mean? So I basically named the 2 richest provinces in Canada. So anyways, that's the hockey talk, and that's Hockey 101 with Reason. Stop by next Wednesday for episode 2. So gentlemen, let's hop right into it. Guys, over 310 of you watching right now, please smash the like button, subscribe if you're new. The first thing I do want to talk about is the salary cap. You know, I got Dolphins After Dark now with the new cast with Jennifer Forbush, Brittany from Sideline T. Go subscribe to Sideline T. Go show some love. We're trying to get her to 1,000. You guys got her over 500 in like 3 days. I haven't really pressed y'all since. Let's get her to 1K. And then I had Anthony filling in for Neil this week, and Jennifer had a great rant when we were talking about Tua Tagovailoa and his contract. And she was talking about Brady and how Brady was making about 20-25 million. And she thinks it's crazy. And she's like, not just Tua, all of these guys, if you're not Patrick Mahomes, how are you making double what Tom Brady made only 4 or 5 years ago with Tampa Bay, right? And like New England got rid of him because they didn't want to pay him $25-30 million, and that's the GOAT. And she just kind of went on. She had a great rant. I suggest all people go watch that, where she went off on just the rising money in the quarterback market. And Tom Pelissero, he was on Rich Eisen, and he said something interesting, gentlemen. He said, there has certainly been discussion within the league among certain owners about the idea of a quarterback cap, that at some point you don't want quarterback numbers to go over a certain percentage of your salary cap. To my knowledge, that hasn't really gained traction, in part because so many teams have already paid their quarterbacks. And we talk about this, you know, you're already eating up over 20% of your salary cap. And with the cap expected to go up 30 million next year, 30 million the year after, and 30 million the year after that, 90 million over the next 3 years, taking the cap to from about 254 to like, let's just call it 345. There's a good chance these numbers are just going to continue to go up. Richmond, you're a former player. All right. You know how the NFLPA operates. You get all that. Do you think that would ever slide, them allowing you to cap one certain position? Because, for example, you've got an agency out here like Athletes First, and I'm not just picking them on them because of Tua. This is what I heard when remember Lamar? Do you boys remember Lamar Jackson when he's going through the negotiations and all that noise and skerbuttle that was made about you need to have a real agent because it was Lamar Jackson and his mom and like they were contacting teams? Well, I heard that the people that complained was Athletes First because they tried to lock in Lamar Jackson and Lamar wasn't having any of it. And I've heard one of the foundational core beliefs in Athletes First is they want to represent all 32 starting quarterbacks so they can corner the market and they can basically control what the quarterback market is. That's their long-term play, right? And when you do the math, if guys are going to be making $50 million a year, it makes more sense to chase 32 starting quarterbacks than it does any other position in the NFL. So smart business model, shit, kudos to you. But do Richmond, do you see the NFLPA allowing a cap at one certain position?
I don't see it at one certain position. I remember it was in the 2000s, I think it was early 2000s, when they came up with the rookie salary cap wage scale and kind of slotted guys, because I think Sam Bradford was the last guy. He had like almost 70 million guaranteed for he even hit the field. And so I think they kind of say, okay, we'll bend on that one there. But for a guy to be proven to come in and say, well, no, we're going to put a cap on that. I think all players, I don't think not only quarterbacks, but I think all players would stand unified and not want to do that. The problem is now that the market is the way it is, like Tua is up, guys that got paid before at that same position, they want to see Tua and those guys get more money, because when their time comes around, it helps. They just keep pushing the scale up. So it's the thing that makes it tough is that, you don't have other guys that play the same position saying, oh, he don't deserve that, this and that. And it's like, no, go get the bag. And when you get the bag, man, I'm coming up in a year or two. So if you said it, everybody's always trying to reset the market because it keeps raising the floor. And like you said, the salary cap's going to keep going up. But at the same time, they want to keep pushing that up. So if it goes up 90 million and they're getting 20% out of that 90, they're going to get 18, 20 million is going to be allotted to the quarterback position. So I don't know how they're going to fix it. The only way they possibly could fix it, and I thought about that, but most of the money that pays the salaries is the media contracts. And if they had a big drop in that, they could justify it and say, hey, we just can't pay this anymore based on the revenues we're receiving. But as long as they're getting the revenues and they're able to drive the cap up like that, it's going to be what it is. And, the good thing, hats off to Brady. I think what he understood, what he valued more was winning versus then, a lot of guys just say, well, no, let me get what I can now. If we win, cool. But if not, I'm getting everything I can get. And everybody don't have that mindset that Brady had. That's what separates him from a lot of guys. He would rather say, okay, like you said, I'm good, because he knew he could make the money off the field with endorsements and stuff like that, but everybody don't think that way. So hats off to him for that. But no, I don't see them bending on this. I think the cat's out the bag, and I don't think they're going to be able to get it back in there.
Because even with what you mentioned, when you brought up the draft, which was a great point, they capped every position. They just didn't cap quarterbacks, right? They basically made a standardized contract for all first-round picks at certain draft positions, second-round picks, et cetera, et cetera. So they kind of capped it. Jennifer Forbush says, I heard that reason. I'm still celebrating out here. And a shout-out to Richmond for not being a hater. Okay. Well, what are your thoughts, BallGame, on them trying to basically get a hold of this quarterback market that's starting to get out of control?
I think first and foremost, they shouldn't have ever let it get to this point. I think when they set themselves up for this, and now you just got to ride the wave, because at the end of the day, they the ones made it so that quarterbacks were the premier position to have, and regardless of who it is, those guys that's gonna get paid money that don't even deserve it, because it's just a continual cycle now at this point. And they created this process when you took 11 guys and you looked at one position and you said, I value you more than the other guys around you. But last I checked, it takes 11 people to win the game, not just a quarterback. Quarterback don't throw the ball to himself and run down there and make people miss, and then, take the hits and all that stuff. So they created this foolishness. So now, it is what it is. I haven't, me personally, how I feel about it. I've been
I know.
for a long time.
We know.
So you gotta deal with it. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is, and I'm good luck with that.
So you're kind of like you reap what you sow.
That's
basically.
That's
like
it.
You did this to yourself.
Yeah, self-inflicted. Self-inflicted. Yeah, so
isn't it crazy that it took Trevor Lawrence playing mid and getting paid, and they're like, whoa. And you remember BallGame? I know you remember BallGame. Remember back in the day, you remember this on the Tuesday night panel. People used to be like, oh, don't draft anyone tank this year too, and go draft Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. And me and EM were like, yo, do not drink that Kool-Aid. This guy is not the savior they're telling you about just because he's got blonde hair, blue eyes, and he's 6'4", 6'5". That is not it.
Any person that really watches football know that after that freshman year that he had with Clemson, he declined every year because Dabo Swinney is just not the guy that really developed quarterback.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, and then I don't understand how you allow a player to go 3 years with no development and then think all of a sudden that when he hit the NFL, he's going to be the next best thing. Like, anybody with that common sense know that. And I think Jacksonville, actually, even though I know they probably didn't want to do it, I think it was genius that they signed him, because at this point, they've got themselves completely out of the foolishness that's about to come.
Yeah.
Even though they overpaid for him, they said, you know what, this time next year, maybe somebody's going to be looking at 60 and it won't be us.
Yeah.
60, 62, 63, and it won't be us. So
Yeah.
let's, we got to do it. Might well get ahead of it and just go ahead and bite the bullet and hope and pray that he's our guy. You feel me?
Yeah. And 275 over the course of that contract, 275 million, 200 of that guaranteed, but only 142 of that being real guaranteed money, right? The other 58 is like roster bonus, injury bonus, all that kind of jazz. Kind of tells you that they're paying him on potential too. They're not even paying him. You know, if he had lit up the league, he'd have a lot more real guaranteed money in that contract, right?
Well, he did. He did light up the league with the most turnovers.
Oh, bro, even the ball game, he won a playoff game and Tua didn't. Brother, he threw 4 interceptions in that first half, and Justin Herbert choked the game away. Let's have the conversation, okay?
Yeah, let's say what it really is.
Yeah, that's exactly what they'd be saying if it was Tua in that position and he threw 4 picks and 4 touchdowns and Herbert choked it away. They'd be saying, well, Herbert choked it, like blah 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 blah. That's what they'd be saying. You know what I mean? So let's keep it $150 here. So I mean, my thing with because listen, I do agree. Like I agree that I agree both sides. I think Tua deserves to be paid just as much, if not more, than Trevor Lawrence, but on the based off production. But on the same token, I agree that they need to get a hold of this before it starts to get out of control. Because you could be sitting here in 3 years where quarterbacks, if it goes up another 90 million, quarterbacks are making 70 million, and edge rushers and receivers are only making about 30, 35, like literally half of what they're making. So. I don't know.
What do you think, Reason? How would you, what I'm saying?
How would I approach it?
Yeah, have you put any thought to it? Because that's,
I would do what you said. So what I would do is so you know how the franchise cap, the franchise tag has numbers for each position?
Mm-hmm.
I would cap at a certain percentage of that franchise tag over the franchise tag. So for example, 42, I think next year it's like 45 million or something like that, or 48 million for a quarterback and a franchise tag. Okay, so I'll cap it at like 35% over that. So that means the franchise tag is 40, let's say it's 48 million, right? So I'll cap it at, let's say, 25-30% over. So the most franchise tag is 48, but the most you can make is 60 million.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then I do that with every position, right? So like, for example, safety, it's about to be 18. It's about to be 18 million, I believe, is about to be the franchise tag number. So I would basically cap that at probably about, 22, 24 million is the most you can make. Yeah,
if you do all of them, that makes sense. Yeah, I see what you're saying. That is pretty good.
You have to do all of them. You can't do one. But see, then you know what the argument's going to come into? Okay, are you going to move those numbers up every time the salary cap moves up?
That's a good point.
That's what they're going to say, right? So what you can't cap that and keep it there, because if everything goes up every year, they're just going to say the owners are just making more money, and we're not. So you'd have to agree on, the cap lasts for like 3 or 4 years, then we raise it exponentially at each position. That's what you need to do, something like that, or every 2 years or something like that, right? That's what you need to do.
Man, that's fine, but if I own the company, you can't tell me that if I'm giving you a raise every year that you can't be happy with my raise that I'm giving you, because it's my company. At the end of the day, without me employing you, you ain't got no job. And at the end of the day, I love this game just as much as anyone else, but hell, I got kids right down the street who are playing today, and they playing for free. You feel me? And I know they out there running around with more passion than a lot of these cats making the money that they're making. You know what I'm saying? I heard a little boy today talking about, Patrick Mahomes. You know what I'm saying? Who knows? He might be the next one, but he's doing it for free. So at some point, we have to be realistic about these numbers. And at the end of the day, it is a business.
That's a good idea too, Scotty says. Position caps need to be a percentage of the total cap, so just self-adjust.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. 110%. It's getting out of there. You know what I mean? Like, we were hearing Dak wanted 60 million before free agency. Like,
he's gonna get it.
And now, if he hasn't, and what
Somebody gonna pay
Y'all
him.
think Tua hasn't won? Tua's played one playoff game. What has this guy done? And if we were in the NFC East, we'd win that division every year.
But it's so
Like-
hard to win playoff games. Is what people
Oh, it
don't
is
understand.
110%. It's easier to win in the NFC than it is the AFC right now,
that part.
especially too.
Yeah, it's a meat grinder in the AFC.
Yo, yeah, ball game. Look at this. This never even happened in Richmond's lifetime. This probably hasn't even happened in your lifetime. We went from 120-year dynasty to now we're entering another potential at least 10-year dynasty with the Kansas City Chiefs. We're entering like a 30-year period between two different team dynasties. When has that ever happened before?
Yeah.
Right? The only other dynasty was what? The
Cowboys.
Pittsburgh Steelers of the 70s?
Yeah.
Or the 60s or whatever it was
60s.
with Bradshaw?
Yeah.
Other than that, what other dynasties have we really ran into?
No.
And we're going back to back.
Yeah.
See, that's the problem. And everyone said, see, that's where the argument is flawed too, right? Well, you haven't won a playoff game. Well, smack my ass and call me Sally. How many people in the AFC East are winning playoff games with Patrick Mahomes around?
How many?
Not many
Just
at all.
saying.
Not
Right?
the one. They're not winning the ones that matter. The only guy that's ever beaten them, that guy who was Joe, right?
Yeah. And he's
Yeah,
hurt.
that's it.
And
That's
Tom.
it.
Joe and
And
Tom.
Tom.
There's
Yeah.
two guys. And here's the other thing too, right? Lamar Jackson. Oh, he's got 2 MVPs. Yeah, well, he's been in the league since 2018. He's got as many playoff wins as he does MVPs. 2.
This last one, he just got his bogus though. I'm gonna be the first to go on record and say
Yeah,
it, 'cause I
it's
don't see anything he did that was better than. Yeah, no
You
way.
got to throw at least 30 touchdowns,
That's
brother.
it. That's it.
Or if you're not throwing 30 touchdowns, you got to be leading the league in passing or something like that. Like,
And you can't blow the number 1 seed. Like,
yeah, in your own house.
you know.
You know? So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. You know, it's interesting that they're bringing up that it's being talked about. I wonder if next year at the owners' meeting, if this is something that starts gaining a little bit more traction, right? You know, so because right now, let's be honest, we're seeing guys get paid who don't deserve to be paid. And I'm talking to you, Trevor Lawrence.
That part.
I'm not saying you don't deserve to be paid. You do not deserve to be tying Joe Burrow for 55 million annual average. I don't care what your guaranteed money is, you know? So anyways,
I saw a stat line. It's crazy. I saw a stat line the other day, and if you'd have taken the two players and sat them side by side, you would have never known that Gardner Minshew actually had a better win percentage than Trevor Lawrence. Threw for more touchdowns and had less turnovers. You know what I'm saying? Gardner Minshew of all people.
Yeah, I've seen people comparing him to like Blake Bortles, and they're not, and the numbers aren't that far off from Blake Bortles. It's crazy.
But he's a $55 million quarterback.
Yeah. Okay, so Terron Armstead talked about Tua. I want to play this because he said something interesting too. Speaking of this money in the quarterback position, I'll play the audio here. This is what Terron Armstead said on the Russ Talker podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. That's my little brother, man, and
How about Tua?
he's I'm somebody that he respects from my play to my opinion to the way I carry myself. So yeah, he's opened up and reached out, and we've talked through numerous situations and contracts specifically for sure we have, and he's gonna be one of the highest paid ever whenever that comes across ESPN and Sports Center and all those good things. But it will be. He's an elite quarterback. He's one of the top guys in the league. He's able to do things that very few on earth can. And with that business stuff, this is what I try to tell him. And this is, you kind of hear this as you've been in the league, which you know, Ross, is the human nature of taking the negotiations personal or making things personal. It's tough not to. Because you get in a negotiation, they bring up injuries, they bringing up this game, they bringing up, you know what I mean? You like, damn, you know? But it's part of this level of, it's the art of negotiation, it's leverage, it's, you know? So, yeah, I think his patience has been great, man. He's been handling everything as a professional. He's still leading our team. And he will be one of the highest paid ever.
So he mentioned, do you notice he mentioned one of the highest paid ever twice after mentioning he's talked with him about contract negotiations? So Armstead knows the deal. I want to go back to you, Richmond, here. You sat in on these negotiations. I saw your head nod and I saw your face when Armstead mentioned what they talk about in these negotiations in regards to injuries, and they try to use every little thing for leverage. So I got to ask you, when you saw Tua at minicamp and he kind of said, he's anxious, et cetera, do you understand his frustration given the situation? He's done everything he's been asked of. He's been in the MVP conversation the last 2 years. One of those conversations ended because of injury. Last year, we were in the conversation for the top seed in the AFC, as well as him in the MVP conversation up until week 17. So, I mean, first of all, how do you view Terron Armstead saying we've talked about contract and he's going to be one of the highest paid ever, and calling him elite? But also, what do you think about Armstead saying, I know how these negotiations go. It's hard not to be a human who doesn't take things personal when they start using all these things against you as leverage?
Yeah. The good thing is, as far as having an agent, you're not in the room when these things are being said. So if you have a good agent, most of the time he's not going to divulge every negative thing that the team has said to you. But you can tell a lot of times when it's dragging out. I think as players, when you have put in the work and you've performed a certain way, you want to be paid like that, and you don't want it to drag out, because then you say, okay, well, I did this, or yeah, they knew I was nicked up and I still went out and gutted it out. I did all this. Now, you want to be hesitant or drag this thing out to the last minute, because as a player, like you said, when it's that year that you're trying to get paid, this is security. Yep, Tua's made good money his first contract, but this here definitely, once this contract is done, he is really financially set. He can take care of his family. The money is way more than back in my day, and I was happy back then when I was getting that kind of money. So, but that's the thing. I was thinking about the Lamar Jackson. You was talking about that earlier. That's the good thing about having an agent. Agents don't want players to represent themselves, because if you can go in there and hire an attorney, because you still need somebody to read through the paperwork and stuff, and not take it personal. I think that's the toughest thing is, to sit in there and just listen to these guys and you'll be like, really? Is this how you truly feel about me? Because I think as a player, if you hear all that negative stuff, it's hard for you to separate, to say, hey, this is a business, this and that, because you're looking at what you did for the team, what you fought, sacrificed through this and that. So I think the good thing is when you have a veteran like a Terron Armstead that's been through it, like he went through the first contract, cool, this and that. He was already kind of slotted, but he's came out, like say his first year. I mean, if I was to, I'd be looking at, okay, I really shouldn't have probably played as early as I did my first year, but I did that. I've done things to sacrifice my body for this team. I've shown growth, this and that. That's how I would look at it if I was him. I'm like, it was times I shouldn't have been out there, and I was out there. And now it's time to reward me for the hard work I've put in. You've seen how I've worked in the offseason. I gained weight. I've cut weight. You've seen the transformation in my body, this and that. And now it's time to get paid, and y'all doing this. It's like, it's hard not to take it personal, but when you got a guy like a Terron Armstead, a veteran, that you can voice your strength, because sometimes you just need to get it out.
Yeah.
Get it out. He's like, bro, don't worry. They're going to pay you. This is just part of the process. Just relax. Keep doing what you're doing. You're one of the best in the league, and you're going to get it. You just got to be patient and work through it. And when you have a voice of reason that you can kind of lean on and go talk to guys like that, it'll help you through the process. But it is frustrating when you think it should just go ahead and get done. And then you're in the building, and then, you see the GM or something. Hey, we're working on, we're going to get it. Just hang tight. You only want to hear that so many times. I'm like, okay, if we're going to do it, let's do it. If not, man, y'all leave me alone. Let me play this last year and I'm out. That's when you really got frustrated. But the main thing you want to do is just, you got to, like somebody like Terron Armstead, it's good to be able to bounce stuff off that you're feeling, but you're talking to somebody that's very level-headed and is going to give you sound advice. So that's a good thing. But yeah, it's always great when you have a guy of his caliber speak so highly of Tua. And I think you've even said it, not only him, but all his teammates feel the same way, and they're starting to voice their opinion that, hey, he should be paid. They love Tua. So that's a good thing.
What do you think, BallGame, about the whole situation regarding Tua Armstead saying he's elite and he's going to be one of the highest paid ever, and then not taking negotiations personal?
Well, I think the first thing you have to take into consideration is that he's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. So there's going to always be naysayers about what he can do and who he is and things of that nature. But I think he's shown over the past 4 years that, he's resilient, that he's willing to put in the work to get better. He came back from that horrendous injury. And that in itself, for me, is enough reason to say, you know what, I got to give this kid some more opportunities to prove to me and his fan base that he's a guy. We believe in him because he came this far. Not going to just have him come this far and leave him there. I think the funniest thing about it is that in these negotiations, it's somebody else talking for you instead of them being able to sit down and talk directly to the player. And a lot of times, a lot of things get misconstrued because those guys that are in there talking for him also get a percentage. So they want that number to be as big as possible. And, oftentimes they make decisions. They consult with the player, but they make decisions based on what they think is best too. And those guys have a name that they're trying to build as well as far as representation goes. So a lot of this may just be the back and forth between the organization and his representation. But, having a guy like Terron Armstead around or other vets that have been through this to talk this over with is probably one of the best things that he has at his advantage right now because he's not sitting somewhere talking, talking this over with people that don't understand and they never been through it. And that's like the worst advice to get is from somebody that's never experienced what you're going through and they're trying to tell you what it's like. So for him to have those type of veterans, especially on the team, and have forged these type of relationships with guys that he can be open and honest and free to speak how he feels about it, and them understand those frustrations, but give him the guidance that he needs to stay, stay ready and be okay with the process, because the process never changes. It's the same process for everyone. So it's not just unique to him. At the end of the day, most organizations, especially for the premier positions, they want to make sure that the money that they're about to invest in a player is going to be a good investment. Most of these guys, they become billionaires because they made bad decisions over and over again. They make good, sound decisions, and they go through the process of thoroughly ensuring that what they're about to invest in is worth the risk. So that's why I always say, in football, where it can't be personal. You got to always look at the business side of it, because when you make it personal, then it affects everything else about you and how you go about doing things. And the last thing he needs to do is be walking around thinking that they don't value him the way he thinks they value him.
Exactly.
Way they should value him. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I still believe that it's a good thing that they haven't signed him yet because you still got Jordan Love sitting out there. And then, I know that the message for me, if it was me, I'd be saying to myself, I want to wait to see what Green Bay going to do because I know my quarterback's better than theirs. But if we sign Tua to say $56 million and they come back and they give Jordan $56.5, what is that saying to our guy about how we feel when we feel like he's the best of the class? You see what I'm saying? So there's a long game to be played too, where it's all ego driven. But at the end of the day, I think the Dolphins want to go through the entire process to do this thing right by him, and it's just going to take some time. So kudos to Armstead for speaking his truth about how he feels about Tua, and I think a lot of other players on the team believe in Tua and feel the same way about him. You probably get the same thing from them as well. So he just got to stay patient and pray it up. I mean, I'm quite sure he's gonna get the money he deserves, and we're gonna reset the quarterback market for a time because obviously, like we said, somebody else is gonna come along. But at least the Dolphins will have shown to him that at this period in time, they feel he's the best guy, you know what I'm saying, at the position. And that's all you can ask for because there's 31 other guys that's going to be coming along at some point getting the extra money too. But in this space and time, you're the best of the best, and we're glad you're here with us. So
let's switch off to a little bit here. I wanted to talk something because it's something we kind of alluded to a few times this offseason on the channel. We all can agree we have pretty high expectations for this team this year, right? We can all agree we think they're going to win at least a playoff game this year.
Yes.
I know we talked about it when we hired Weaver, but let's bring Frank Smith into this. Do you see the Miami Dolphins coaching staff being rated a little bit next offseason? Anthony Weaver I mean, let's start with him, right? He already interviewed this year with the Atlanta Falcons and the Washington Commanders about their head coaching vacancies before taking the defensive coordinator job here. Frank Smith had interviews with the Carolina Panthers and the Seattle Seahawks for their head coaching vacancies and had that offense not sputtered near the end of this year. Who knows what's going to happen now? I want to get your thoughts on this, and we'll start with you, BallGame. Do you think that, I mean, we're not even talking about the Austin Clarks, who's been a fantastic defensive line coach here for years. We're not even talking about the Butch Berry, who's working wonders with our offensive line. We're not even talking about Wes Welker, who's arguably one of the best receiver coaches in the NFL, and who I think it's Darrell Bevell and Wes Welker are the next two up to be offensive coordinator in Miami. Yeah, we didn't even talk about Darrell Bevell, right? And we know what he did as an offensive coordinator, and we know he turned down head coaching opportunity interviews last offseason. Do you see this coaching staff getting rated a little bit if we meet some of the expectations we've got for this season with this team? Because we got a lot of quality people when you look at both sides of the football.
I think yes, you will, but I think it'll be more for the offense than the defense. This will be the first opportunity that we've had to be the guy at the helm of calling his own shots and calling his own defense. And sometimes it takes a little more than just one season to do that. Now you have, because you can have what I consider to be an amazing season, and then the next year you come out and you fall flat on your face, and it could just be centered around the players that you have there that have the, the abilities and understanding of what it is you want to go through and do, and they just ride, he rides the coattails of their experience. But I think he's going to need at least another year after this year to be able to be fully cemented, and then they might pluck him from us. But as far as the offensive side, they're loaded over there. So I think that at some point they will pull from that side, because this will be the third year in Mike's offense. So after 3 years of the full implementation of the offense, that's when you really start seeing poaching happen, because at that point, the NFL alone don't want you to be stacked like that anyway. And those guys need to be moved to keep league balance across the board with new, fresh coaches and all those things in different spaces. So I think the offense will happen first, and then later, maybe a year or so later, then Weaver possibly, but not without him naming a successor or something like that. And that's just not in place just yet. So this is his opportunity to really make his name for himself, right? And be the guy for the defensive side. And I think it takes 2 years for you to be able to do that of, measured success, and then from there he might be gone. But just interviewing a guy sometimes is just because you want to see where his head's at, and you want to see exactly what he has to offer and if he's ready for that role. So, at the end of the day, they didn't pick him for those roles. So maybe those organizations also didn't feel that he was quite ready yet. So this is his opportunity to get his weight up, get his resume up with us, because there's not too many other locations that offer kind of the buzz and kind of the expectations that the Dolphins have right now. And all they need is just the leadership and the correct, just somebody on that side that can send that 11 out there to go accomplish the mission, and then match what the offense is going to give as well, and bring it all together. So, yeah, it'll happen, but I think it'll happen on the offensive side of the ball before it happens on the defensive side of the ball.
What do you think, Richmond? Do you agree with that? Because he makes a good point. We're going to see third year. We're also going to see the real full potential start to get unlocked in this offense, because we've got a lot of players that have been in it for those 3 years. What are your thoughts on that? Are you expecting the offensive side of the football to get rated a little bit more than the defensive side of the football?
Well, I definitely think it'll get I think it'll get rated, and even the defensive coordinator, like BallGame said, when you start getting interviews for head coaching positions, you're almost there. Even if you don't get the job, just for them to actually bring you in, like I said, a lot of times you just might need another year or two, but you're just not quite there. And then a lot of times, as a coach, sometimes you'll go in for the interview, but then maybe you feel that's not the right fit for you based on that organization or, that owner, this and that. A lot of times you got to be honest with yourself and just say, man, this don't feel right. Let me just go back where I am. But when you have quality coaches on your staff, that's just part of the game. And when when BallGame was talking about that, and you brought up the question, I thought about, Nick Saban at Alabama and how his coordinators continually year in, year out, he had to replace them, this and that. And I think it just becomes part of the process. But you want guys from your staff to develop and get better, just like you do your players, to give them opportunities to have that position, and you get to coach against them. But I definitely see it. Like you said, if you're one of the best in the game, like you said, Wes Walker's a receiver coach, but if he gets promoted to a coordinator position or somebody offers him that, you got to take that, because then once you get coordinated, the next thing is head coach. But I don't see a lot of lateral movement, like, he leaving from being a receiver coach with us to go somewhere else. But anytime it's a promotion and this and that, you got to look at that. But yeah, the quality of coaches we have on our staff, I definitely can see we're going to have to start replace them. And that's just part of the game, and you got to be ready before it actually gets here. So when it gets here, you've already done due diligence on other coaches around and say, okay, it's a possibility we're going to lose somebody, but if we lose him, who's the next guy? It's almost like when you walk in a GM, they have all these players up there in case somebody gets hurt. This is the best tackle they got out, and that's not signed. Is you have your list already ready, so you can start calling guys this and that. But yeah, I definitely see that. Hopefully not this year, but I can definitely see it happening.
Now, what's interesting here for me is Calais Campbell, gentlemen. And Calais Campbell, he said that, we're speaking of Weaver and such right now, right? And now, first of all, Calais Campbell, I haven't got your guys' thoughts on the signing, so this is perfect for her. But Calais Campbell said, a big reason that he signed here is because he feels like there's a really good opportunity here. Quote, I think that this defense is going to be a top, very top. I don't want to go too crazy, but I think it's going to be a really good defense. And then when he was asked about Weaver, he called him, quote, a huge, huge factor in his decision to sign with Miami, because he said he definitely had quite a few teams interested. And he said, quote, I feel like the main reason why I wanted to come here was because I really believe in who Anthony Weaver is as a coach and our relationship. We talked a lot during the process. He knows what I'm capable of doing. He understands my mind and how I see the game, and he trusts me. BallGame, what are your thoughts on the addition of Calais Campbell? What are your thoughts that it seems like OBJ, BallGame, we got another player, a veteran player coming here because they believe they have a shot at a Super Bowl with us. They believe we're that kind of contender. All of a sudden, Miami is a destination for people who want to who contend and chase a Super Bowl because of how this roster is currently orchestrated. What are your thoughts on what Calais Campbell said there? Because he also expects this to be one of the top defenses in the NFL.
I think when you think about the player and what Calais Campbell has been able to do in his career, you can't help but be ecstatic about the fact that this guy he chose us over all the other options that he had to go with. I would say arguably right now, hands down, that even at the age of 38 in a couple months, he's still probably the number 1 5 tech in the entire NFL. Like, no one I've ever seen, especially considering how humongous the man is, just like unreal. But as 5 tech, I haven't seen anyone ever play the position better. And to have that type of expertise and knowledge of the game and just be an all-out professional on the highest level, come and be added to this D-line and this group of guys that are going to be in a heavy rotation for Anthony Weaver. That's the biggest thing, I think, that, he came to someone that he was familiar with. He came to a guy that he knows will maximize the best version of himself for however many number of plays he gets to go out and contribute. He said, and I heard him say in a little snippet, that Anthony Weaver trusts him and gives him freedom to be and find himself inside the game, and he trusts that he's going to make the right play. And that in itself, for a player of his caliber, is a huge thing, because obviously all the parts of the defense have to work cohesively together so that no one is left out on an island. But he's developed a rapport with Anthony that allows him to freelance sometimes and still play within the confines of the system and make plays that are huge for the defense. And like I said, that is definitely one of the biggest pickups for the Dolphins. And the fact that he chose us, that tells you really and truthfully a lot about how he feels. Because sometimes even at his age, guys are looking for the last paydays that they can get, and this is not about payday for him. This is about recognition, and it's about having his name wrote down in the books and winning a Super Bowl. And if the Dolphins, in his heart, he feels gives them the best shot to do it, and I'm glad, and I can't knock the man for that, and I'm happy he's with us, to be honest with you. So.
Before we go to Richmond, what's your opinion in terms of the drop-off fans might see going from a guy like Christian Wilkins? Obviously, we know the energy is probably going to be the main thing you'll see in terms of stamina, but he's still productive. He was the mainstay of Atlanta's pass rush last year. Do you think? I don't think there's going to be that big of a drop-off. In where are you in that?
I think people misconstrue sometimes the effectiveness of the guy that was actually next to Christian Wilkins in regard, and Zach Seiler. And when you bring in a guy like Calais Campbell in, there's not really going to be much drop off, I think, in terms of performance and play, only because Seiler was there every week, just right there next to Wilkins, and arguably had better stats. Now, we fell in love with Wilkins because he was a first-round pick for us, and I don't know how many people are willing to admit that, but at the end of the day, you want your first-round picks to stay at home as long as possible and be here with you through the process. But Zach brought his pal to work every day and has the same stat line, or if not better, in the categories that matter the most in terms of me. So I don't see how, if you're building and anchoring your defensive line around a guy that was just as good or not better than Christian Wilkins, then and then you bring in a guy like Calais Campbell in to add even more expertise to the 5 spot. I mean, for the 5 tech, I don't see a drop off. I think if anything, you just got better, really and truthfully, because now Calais, without a shadow of a doubt, loves the whole process of them double teams because he can beat them effectively. He's proven that he can beat them effectively. He's proven that he can put a whole D-line on his back, even at his age, but he doesn't have to anymore because that's Zach's job. But those guys together, I think, I don't see how. And the rotation that Weaver puts in place, man, I went back and watched some Baltimore games, man. Those rotations were crazy, bro.
Yeah.
And how he goes through the process, keep everybody fresh.
Can I ask you something, BallGame?
Yeah.
So Weaver and the coaching line he comes from, it traces back to Rex Ryan, kind of like how Flores did a little bit.
Pressure.
I've been telling people, are you expecting more blitzing and more pressure? Because something that I talk about is this, like, check this out. You'll like this. Okay, so you look at like week 2 and week 3 of last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Ravens played predominantly cover 1 against the Bengals and the Colts, and then week 4 they played predominantly cover 3 and cover 4. Week 1 they played predominantly cover 6. They were very hybrid and multiple on the back end. But look at this. They sent extra rushers and only blitzed the Bengals 11.6% of Joe Burrow's dropbacks. But then when they faced the Colts, buddy, they ramped it up to 51% of the snaps they were blitzing or sending extra rushers on. So how do you like? I tried to explain to people, maybe you can do a better job of articulating it because of your defensive background. These guys were adapting to Fangio's scheme last year, but you've got guys that have been on this defense since Flores was around. They're going to be much more comfortable and much more at home, aside from learning the new terminology and such, in Weaver's defense because of what he's going to be asking them to do. Is that why you think there's not going to be that big of a transition? Because a lot of these guys are going to be, the asks of them in this defense are going to be a lot of stuff they're familiar with?
Well, yeah, you're putting guys back into what's comfortable inside their wheelhouse, and I think a lot of what he does is match up, but it's based primarily on who's the signal caller. Like, you don't want to blitz with Joe Burrow as much because of the fact that he can read defenses a lot quicker than a guy that's like Anthony Richardson can. You know what I'm saying? In those instances, you create pressure. You create pressure differently for the opponent based on the abilities of the primary guy that you're trying to rattle the most, which is the quarterback. If you can disrupt most of the vets aren't going to be as rattled, so you don't want to send pressure from them as much because you got to get really, really crafty in where you're sending it from. And if a guy's leaving, there's a hole that somebody's got to fill, and if your guy gets into that hole before their guy gets to fill it, then that guy can be gone. So you have to take that into consideration. But I think overall we'll see a lot more pressure packages just because this is something that Flores and the vast majority of the guys that are still around are guys that have become comfortable with those with doing those things. So yeah, you got to take advantage of that. Those are skill sets that they have that without a shadow of a doubt they were pretty good at when we were actually doing it at a high clip. So now he's just going to incorporate probably more exotic looks on the backside, like a lot of more invert stuff and a lot more rolls, late rolls, where he's bringing a safety down into the box, and then the safety becomes the next outside blitzer, so that the tackle is going to have to stretch and and pick up, or especially to the weak side where the tight ends to the strong side of the formation, and you got a backside blitzer coming out that's hot. It's hard to recognize that stuff if you don't see it early. So it's going to be a real shell game or a real cloak and dagger type situation for him. But yeah, I definitely see the pressure ramping up tremendously because pressure busts pipes. And everybody, especially early, everybody ain't gonna be that suited with protection packages and all that stuff to be able to match up. So that's where you get your guys, the most of their reps on live action, and you can take risk early because we got an offense that has potential to score every time they're on the field. So, and that's not something that can be said about everybody else. So that puts us in a position where we actually on the defense we can take more chances. You see what I'm saying? So I do expect for us to be blitzing and sending heat. Yeah,
a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah.
What do you think of the Calais Campbell signing Richmond? And what are your thoughts on him? Basically, I mean, you played there when we were a contender. What are your thoughts on guys like him and OBJ now viewing this as a destination to come play on a really good roster that has a chance to contend, and also him wanting to stick with that familiarity with a guy like Anthony Weaver?
I think you just said it, familiarity. And a lot of time it's relationships. It's just like when Jones came here because of I'll come back to, but anyway, I'm trying to think of the coach we had from New England. I'm drawing a blank, but anyway, familiarity, because you know what you got. It's a guy you trust.
Brian Flores.
Brian Flores. That's what I was thinking about. Jones, the cornerback that came here. He had But a lot of times that's what it is key. And then I just think it's the environment that we have in Miami right now. McDaniel has brought there, and I think, like we talked about before, there was a point in time where quality free agents didn't want to come to Miami, but that's not the case anymore. And then, bringing a guy in like Tyreek that, had the Super Bowl experience, the work ethic that, all that stuff trickles down throughout the locker room. And you bring in a guy like a Terron Armstead. So he brought in some veterans that guys respect. And then you draft guys like a Waddle, a Tua that came from winning programs in college, this and that. All that stuff starts to come together and get cohesive and just filters throughout the locker room. But you bring in a guy like the OBJ, Campbell, both of those guys have played in the Super Bowl. So you keep adding to where not just in one room, but you got a guy here and there and say, hey, man, when you get in the playoffs, this is kind of what you expect, this and that. And then for Campbell, a guy that, like you say, he's going to turn 38. But he looks at, Chubb, he looks at Chop Robinson, he looks at this, and you're like, yeah, I can rotate in and out here. And if we play the way we're supposed to play, we can be in and off the field. And then he looks at the offense and said, we keep giving them the ball back, they can do damage. So it's not like a real reach to where he can say, he's just saying something on paper to saying, well, we got a chance to win. We really have a legitimate chance if everything gels and come together. I think injuries is always a huge part, but the type of talent and stuff we have, safety position, D-line, we upgraded in the linebackers, probably got one of the best receiver corps in the league. Achane, Mozart, you name it. You can go through just different positions, the talent we got, the speed we got, and then you got a quarterback Tua. If all that comes together, man, it's a force to be reckoned with. And I think that's what it's not like a hard sell that people just blowing smoke and just saying, oh, man, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. You can actually see because you look at the quality of players, look at how they like being here, this and that, and attitude is a huge part. So once you start believing, we just got to stay healthy. And I think we definitely have a legitimate shot at making that push. And like you said, like we all believe we're going to win that playoff game, but I think it could even be even more special than that.
Tony says he loves Wednesdays at Reason's house. What's going on, bro? Come on by.
What's going on at Reason's house? Hold up.
What is going on at Reason's house? I don't know. He just means inside the NFL, though. All right, guys, final thoughts. And in those final thoughts, I know you're touching on it, BallGame, in the chat. I'll get your guys' thoughts. In your final thoughts, touch on the fact that we went from 2 weeks ago, Connor Williams might never play again, to apparently he might be back this year. So your guys' final thoughts. And in those final thoughts, where do you guys stand on Connor Williams coming back to the Miami Dolphins? Because I think a lot of where I pitched yesterday was if you could get him to agree to come back, and you give him more time to get ready, give him more time to get healthy, there's a good chance he's going to get snaps at left guard with Isaiah Wynn's history, right? So I want to get your guys' thoughts on that. Knight says we made a decision. Unfortunately, it cost us Connor. It sucks, but we couldn't wait to find out. We got bigger goals to accomplish. So we'll start with you, BallGame. Final thoughts and your thoughts on the whole Connor Williams situation.
Well, for me, I just put some stuff into the chat when I reiterated. Basically, I said that he's a good player for us, but I think he's in his feelings right now because we didn't extend him when he wanted to be extended. And at this point right now, it's hard. It's probably gonna be hard to negotiate with a guy that feels like we didn't do what he wanted us to do when he wanted it done. And that's unfortunate. But I mean, I think he earned the right to go out and see what other opportunities are there as well. And then they got asked me the same question too. It's like, would you want him back? Well, why wouldn't you want him back? Because then that if he's healthy, that solves a lot of issues up front for us, and then you don't have to necessarily worry about the question. You don't have as many question marks in regards to the offensive line, and you could probably feel the top offensive line in the NFL at some point in the season when probably you need that going down the stretch, especially when you get into that cold stretch at the end of the year. But the players have just as much to do about trying to mend relationships as the organizations do. And I think when they get too deep off into feeling like they've been disrespected, it's kind of hard to bring them back from that.
Agreed.
And unfortunately, I think we may very well be in that space with him right now.
Yeah.
If we're not, and somebody can bridge that, then by all means, welcome him back. If he's 100% healthy, he can get there, then it just adds to something that's already going to be special because Butch Davis, our O-line coach has already proved that he can take guys that we didn't think we can get anything out of and get maximum NFL level play from them. Even if they were average, they were still, that's better than most because average in the NFL means you're exceptional everywhere else. You know what I'm saying? So,
your final thoughts, Richmond?
Yeah. I would welcome him back. I think the thing as a player, a lot of time when you test the market, you got to be realistic with yourself. And it's you've become too old, you're not as good as you thought you were, or the demand for you is not as good for you, or injury could definitely affect your market, and especially with the injury he had, that's it. So he's tested it and there's nothing really out there. So the thing I look at is say, okay, sometimes we got to eat humble pie. I mean, it goes on both sides of the fence and just say, hey, I still got an opportunity to still play this game that I love, this and that. Yeah, I might be a little pissed off at Miami, but right now they might be the only team that's really willing to reach out there and re-sign me, this and that. And let me just get myself back, and then maybe I have another shot at it. Maybe I won't, just depending on how long.
Yeah.
If you think
it's going to be a 1-year deal wherever he goes,
it gives you time to recover, and then you hit the market again. But a lot of time you got to, like I just say, you got to eat humble pie. It's nobody's fault, but it's business on their part, and you just got to understand it. Just hey, they let you test this. The reason they let you test it because they knew the severity of your injury, and they probably said it's a high probability once he's not going to be able to pass physical. And if he does, they're not going to be able to give him the type of money he wants. So
yeah, I agree.
They gambled and it worked out in their favor. So, come on back. Like, sign a 1-year deal, get your mind focused and do what you got to do. And, hey, hopefully you have another shot at it.
Yep.
And that would give us the depth we're looking for. A guy who could play left guard and a guy who played center. That would give us the depth. I think we'd all be, a lot. But the reason why they didn't get it signed last year, he wanted to be one of the top paid centers in the NFL, and they weren't ready to commit that. And here we are, right? So, and I think BallGame's right. You look at how it was worded yesterday by Schefter and stuff. It sounded like he's looking for a new team. You know what I mean? So, and I think BallGame's right. It's because they didn't do right by him by extending him. He wanted to protect himself from injury. And look what ended up happening. It ended up being he almost tore every letter in the alphabet in his knee, right? So
that's part of the game. But
part of the game, man.
Part of the game. So, yeah.
Yeah. So, guys, smash the like button. Subscribe if you are new. I'll be live Sunday, 8 p.m. with Jennifer, Neil, and of course Brittany of Sideline T. Go subscribe to Sideline T. I'll be live in the next 2 days with you guys as well, probably. So smash the like button, subscribe if you're new. There's almost 700 of you watching right now. We appreciate all y'all for tuning in. And until next time, as always, fins up all day, every day. We'll see y'all in the next one.